Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Friday Food Safety Fundamentals. This is Linda Jackson, and I'm from Food Focus. And Adele, where are you? Are you there?
Yes, I am. Good morning, everybody. So happy to be with you this morning on this Friday Fundamentals before a lovely long weekend in South Africa.
Yes, that's right. It is a long weekend. We're really all looking forward to a bit of a break. But please, people, no super spreader events this weekend. Wear your masks, use a hand sanitizer, and stay away from lots of people. But that's another story. Today we are talking about environmental health and your certificate of acceptability. And the reason why Adele and I are not on camera is because we have some amazing people that are joining us today. I'm going to give you a sneak preview. In my home office, I have 3 environmental health practitioners that are joining us today from Ekurhuleni municipality. As you can see, as socially distanced as we possibly can within my office, plus our masks, because they are very, very concerned and they take COVID very, very seriously, as we all should be. And so we're going to be chatting to them shortly. So thank you so much to them for joining us today. We have inquiries on a weekly basis, sometimes a daily basis, where small companies are inquiring on what is the procedure that they should follow in order to become legally compliant as a food business in South Africa. And so every day, every week, we send out emails with information. We've written articles about it, but we really just felt that it would be so much better if we were able to have a conversation with some environmental health practitioners who could give us an understanding of the practical side of this and why it is so necessary. And so that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. And I have the great pleasure of introducing to you 3 EHPs that operate from the Ekurhuleni municipality offices. They're in different parts of the city, but all of them have a similar role to play. And so let me start with Andisiwe. Andisiwe is an EHP. She is practicing in Benoni. She completed her BTech at Nelson Mandela University, that being in environmental health. She loves life in general. You can see it from that smile, hey? She just loves smiling. She loves to be part of projects. She loves initiating projects. And really, she just is passionate about the health of people at large. She's been involved in tobacco awareness programs, malaria awareness programs, and as she said, she just loves projects. So we're hoping we can get her more involved with food safety projects. She'd love to become a lecturer one day, which is great. She loves to teach people, and I think there's so much of teaching in environmental health. And she would love to be involved with even more incredible projects to better people's lives. I have with her Samantha Lange. Samantha is also an EHP and she's based in Kempton. Samantha has a master's in environmental health and she's currently a doctoral student at the University of Johannesburg. Sucker for punishment, hey, Samantha? And she's recently been appointed to the Health Professionals Council of South Africa as a board member. She's been actively involved in the development of health education programs and promotional materials throughout her 30-year career within municipal health or environmental health. She's been instrumental in a CPD program for environmental health within the city. She also loves to teach because she's already lecturing. She has lectured and she loves environmental health. That's why she spends so much of her life in this very important career. She's been married. She's a mom of 2. She's an ultra marathon runner, and she's learning to play the piano. She's still learning, she says. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. And then the thorn, I mean the rose between the thorns today is Moketi Rabele. Moketi is also an EHP in the city of Ekurhuleni. He joined in September of 2019. He studied at UJ. He has his BTech in environmental health. He's also continuing his studies in public health, passionate EHP, and he loves the compliance aspect of his job. And so he's going to be talking to us more about what he does on a day-to-day basis. So thank you to all of you for joining us. We really do appreciate having you, and we're looking forward to chatting to you now in more detail. So first of all, Moketi, why don't you start by telling me what is the role of environmental health at the municipality? We're talking today about food safety, but Is that the only thing you do, or are there other aspects of your job that you have to take care of on a day-to-day basis?
No, it's not only food safety. We also do waste management. We are also involved in healthcare risk waste management.
Yeah.
We are also involved in vector control. We are also involved in surveillance of health of premises. We are also involved in chemical safety.
Okay.
Yes, and the other one,
Communicable disease control.
Control
Yes.
when it comes to COVID-19, we're also involved in the investigation of the disease. Yes.
And I think that's probably kept you very busy for the last year.
Yes, at the moment we receive a lot of cases, especially since when I'm also involved in the escape mode, where right now it's a retail premises, where right now we receive a lot of cases in the stores, and then I have to investigate and advise the clients in terms of how to control the disease in the center.
Yes.
But most of the time now I'm involved with the center management, where right now I have given them the requirements in terms of if there is a case in a store. What is it that they must do? How is it that they must advise the stores? So normally they are more involved now. At least now I'm able to see that they are doing something on my behalf when I'm not there. Especially last time I was on leave, and then they were able to advise the stores in terms of what is it that they must do. Yes.
I think we've all learned a lot about communicable diseases and how to prevent the spread of communicable diseases since last year. So Samantha, we're going to talk today specifically about making sure that food businesses comply with local municipality requirements and in fact national health legislation, because this is not just a local municipal requirement, it is in fact a national requirement. So there's some discussions about having a license to trade as a food business, and people often ask us, do I need a license? Do I need a COA? What do I need to be legally compliant? So Samantha, please tell us, what do we need to be compliant?
Okay, so it's a little bit, there's quite a lot of things that are involved in any premises. But from environmental health side, we have the COA. Under the R638, where we issue a certificate of acceptability to a premises. But because we're not an entity that stands alone, because we're part of the city, we're part of the municipality, we have to work with other departments as well. So there are such things. That's why when you talk of a license or a certificate, there is both, just to complicate the issue, because we also have a Business Act. And the Business Act says that certain businesses need a business license. And one of those businesses is a business that prepares and sells food. They need a business license and they need a certificate of acceptability. To complicate a little bit further, the city cannot work against itself. So as an EHP, I can issue a certificate of acceptability to a food premises if they comply with the legislation. However, if the premises itself, where the food premises is, doesn't comply with other departments, for example, they aren't correctly zoned, or their building plan hasn't been signed off, or they don't have emergency plans or things, I cannot actually issue that certificate of acceptability because it means that I'm disregarding everything else in our organization. So for the purpose of this, we're only going to talk about a COA, but I think people need to understand that there are other departments involved and other requirements, such as the business license, such as an improved building plan, such as a zoning, a correct zoning for a premises. And all of those, unfortunately, impact on the issuing of a COA.
I understand. Tell me, Ndisiwe, if I apply, what is the procedure that I need to go about in order to apply for a certificate of acceptability? Should I come in person to the municipality? Which municipal offices do I need to come to? Or is it possible to make contact with an EHP, telephonically?
Just to answer the last question, which is it possible to call an EHP to inquire about any kind of business that you would like to venture into? Perfect. that's normally the way to go, because you can always ask, what are the documents that you need to provide us with, and also when can we be available for an appointment? Because most of the time that's what happens. Clients will call you and ask, I want to start off a baking kitchen at my home, what must I do? And then I'll send you the document that you need to fill, and also the document that you need to provide us with. And then when you have already sent those, we set up an appointment where I can go and do the inspection. And if it does comply, it has all the things that are necessary, that are aligned with the regulation that we use, which is R638, then we can start the process of issuing you with one of the certificates. You also asked, where do you go? You go to the environmental health offices, and EHPs are all situated there. Each and every area has their own municipality where you can inquire about the certificate from.
Okay, so to find the municipality that I need to apply with, or apply to, I think when we were chatting just now, you know, one of the suggestions was, who do you pay your water and lights to? That'd be a good start. But you did also mention that if you're starting a business in an area where you don't reside, I have to apply for the certificate of acceptability in that municipal area. Is that correct? Wherever the business is based.
Exactly. Perfect.
Okay.
You have to apply at the municipality where your business is situated. Okay. If you live in a certain area but your business is also another area, please go to the municipality that is responsible for the area that you want to open your business in.
Perfect. Okay, so you were talking about spaza shops, and you've said with COVID, you've had a huge increase in the number of applications for home-based businesses because people are taking a lot of strain. Many people have become unemployed. In the case of a spaza shop where I am operating from my home, how do I go about navigating the zoning aspect? Do I still need to apply at the zoning department? What is the procedure for that?
The first thing that we have to do is to consult with the city planning, because they are the people that are going to provide the consent use for you to operate in a residential area. Because most of the time, remember, the spaza shops are operating in a residential area, so there must be a consent that is issued, so that environmental health, when you come, we can be able to give you the requirements, because other than that, there is no other way that we can be able to give you with the requirements.
Okay. Yes. Now, Sam, are the requirements the same for a bakery at home or a spaza shop? Would you evaluate the premises in the same way as you would, for example, a manufacturing facility that's making ready-to-eat meals for one of the retailers? How do you compare a home-based business with that kind of operation?
I think that's the beauty of the 638. It's comprehensive. It covers everything. That legislation is there for a 5-star hotel and for a person who is just making cook sisters in their kitchen. So the basics of it is the whole point of the 638 is to ensure that you are providing a hygienic facility, and that your food is going to be health, well, not so much as healthy, but it's not going to be harmful to health. So whether you are preparing food in a 5-star kitchen that has absolutely everything that opens and shuts, or in your home kitchen, at home, you're still able to wash your hands. You're still able to have a clear surface that you can clean up. You still have a fridge. You still have water. So the basics are still there. So that's how we evaluate it. It is a little bit of that is the whole point of why we are we do come on board, because we are able to assess the situation and determine, do we need 1, 2, and 3, or can we get away with just leaving a little bit out here and moving a little bit there? So it's a little bit of a cut and paste, but the legislation is such that it allows us to move across all sections, and we can just apply it to any of them.
So if there are requirements of 638 that do not apply because it's a home-based industry, do you somehow indicate that on the certificate of acceptability? Are there exemptions from certain requirements on the certificate? So that it's I'm legally allowed to not comply with certain requirements?
Yeah, that's I think my colleagues will agree. That's again the beauty of the 638. the COA is issued, and there's a specific section in the COA that allows you to put in restrictions, conditions, and exemptions. So you can literally exempt, and the other thing with the COA is it's signed by an environmental health practitioner who is registered with the Health Professions Council. The HI number of that environmental health practitioner is there. So the moment an EHP signs a certificate, they are literally signing from a professional point of view that they are satisfied that this premises will be safe to operate with these exemptions, with these conditions, with these requirements.
So it's not just you saying, I do things right. I can rely on the expertise of the EHPs. And you see, how much does this cost me? I mean, I'm already in trouble economically, you know, so is this an expensive process? What does it cost?
It costs you absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Application of the COA is one of the easiest, and I think people are so like they always think that this is a process that you need to take for the longest time. No, it's one of the easiest processes that you can ever take part in. You just literally, you can just Google the telephone number of the municipality that you are situated in, then you can contact them, you can ask for the relevant EHP that is responsible for that area, and then you can start the process. You do not have to pay for absolutely nothing. It's really an easy process to say, if you comply and you provide us with the necessary documents, you can get your certificate like within a week or so.
I think in some municipalities, Ekurhuleni, I think, is a shining star in that regard. Well done. But not all municipalities. So we have had concerns, you know, from people around the country where they have been trying to contact the EHP. Our advice is to always contact them early in the morning because you're on the road. Am I correct? So you don't sit in the office the whole day waiting for someone. How are you going to get to the retailers if you're not out there? But then also, secondly, to you know, to at least follow up with emails and those kinds of things, because it can sometimes take a little while. And I think the important thing is also to prove that you have done everything you can to make contact with the municipality in that respect. You mentioned documents. Can you give me an idea of what some of these documents could be that I would need to have in place before I actually apply for the COA?
Okay, the main one would be the application form, which you get from us. Obviously, we send it to you and then you can complete it for us.
Perfect.
And then you also include your ID, and you also include the electricity and lights statement. I think my colleagues can assist me on that. The rest of the other thing that we the certificate, just learning certificate, and it also differs on the setup of a business. If sometimes we request them to provide us with a menu to actually understand the setup of the business that you want to participate in, because sometimes you find that it's only dry foods, then you won't need a fridge when it comes to that. But if you are willing to you're going to have boerewors or something that will need a refrigerator for it to be kept in a good state, then we'll advise you to have the refrigerator, but you can also add.
Okay, and the most important one is the pest control.
Okay.
Because now remember, when you're dealing with food, and then you are able to now attract the cockroaches, rodents and flies. So pest control is also very important with regards to that. It has to be done continuously.
Now, how do you handle that in a spaza shop, for example, which I can understand in a retail center where there are many, you know, there's a lot of food outlets and what have you, it becomes a very serious problem. And normally there would be a contractor who would be responsible. Would that still apply within a home business?
In a home business is something different, because remember now, as long as you provide that continuous cleaning in your kitchen, then everything is fine. And then in the case of spaza shops, most of the spaza shops, they actually sell prepacked food, of which now there's no higher risk of attracting the pest or any other.
Absolutely, So you've got what you're saying to me is you evaluate the risk of every business. You're looking to see for each business, what food am I selling? So therefore, which of the controls within Regulation 638 are the most appropriate and also the most important when it comes to that assessment. Adele, you've done this work before. Now, in your experience as an EHP, having worked at the Sandton municipality, what questions would you like to ask to the team, given the fact that, you know, things have changed? It's been a few years since you've been out there inspecting. Yes, definitely. And like I said to them all when we started, it's so nice for me to speak to my people. I see you guys as you know, we all have the same passion at heart, and listening to the way that you guys speak, it really makes me feel so at home in terms of being with you guys. So yes, like Linda said, is, you know, we constantly get a lot of questions on our website, on our chat lines. Actually, while you guys were talking, I had someone that said to me, where do I go? How do I get my certificate of acceptability? So thank you very much for your answers. One of the questions that I would like to ask you specifically is, so I've heard now you said that most importantly, before I even think to start my business, the town planning is important. So I must make sure before I even start thinking about my menu, my product or anything, my zoning of where I want to run this business from, that's point number one. I must get that little tick in the box to say that I can actually utilize this premises where I want to run the business from, that it's been zoned as a premises where I can run a business from. Am I right if I say that?
Yes. Yeah. The thing is, it's not, it doesn't, you have to start with town planning. You have to start with city development. That is their competency. Some premises will be rezoned. Some premises may only need a specific type of consent, a special consent or a consent. But at the end of the day, especially if you are looking at a residential property, remember, a house was built and a residential area is made for a mom, a dad, 2 kids and a dog and a cat. They did not expect, your neighbor didn't expect for there suddenly to be a massive outlet where you are maybe making chopped garlic and all this person smells from morning to night is chopped garlic. So, you know, that is the purpose of this whole zoning. It seems like a huge stumbling block, but it's actually to protect yourself, your neighbors, your neighborhood, the environment. The other thing is, of course, when you are looking at zoning and any sort of a business, there's different things that are involved. There's more, maybe more waste generated, maybe more wastewater. You know, the organics going into wastewater from food premises actually make a big difference to our wastewater purification systems. So all of that has to be taken into account. So although it seems like a huge stumbling block, if it's the responsibility, if, as we say, before you're drawing up, I mean, we get it quite often where a lady wants a coffee shop and she already knows exactly what mats are going on the table. She knows the color, she has the scheme, everything. But she wants to do it in the back garden, and that's not going to work because the neighbor actually doesn't want all the ladies at lunch to come and make a noise in the afternoon. He wants to have an afternoon sleep. So you need to take that responsibility and look exactly for the right premises. Again, don't just assume that because there was previously a restaurant on this premises, that the premises is correctly zoned. Quite often landlords take a chance. They just go ahead, they open a business, and because we are very understaffed, I mean, in Kenton Park, there's one town planner to deal with the entire Kenton Park area. It's impossible. He can't do it. So you can easily have an illegal business. But if you then need a COA because you want to supply a retailer and you're working from one of these business premises, I can't issue with a COA because you're paying a landlord business rates. You assume you're in a business premises, and I can tell you, sorry, you're not. It's still zoned as residential. So you need to do a little bit of homework first. Yes, the color of your mats are really important, but you know, you just need to check the back end of it first as well. Thanks.
Yeah, Samantha, I'm so glad that you know that you're putting so much emphasis on that point because, you know, like you say, anybody that's starting something off new are full of energy and excited and they want this to succeed. And then, you know, if they don't do the homework from that point, you're unfortunately going to pay school money because you're going to get most probably to a point where everything that you've put in is going to fall down because that important box can't be ticked. So I think that's extremely important that the people listening today, you know, needs to understand. Okay, so now I am zoned, okay, and I have submit my application, and now the EHP is coming out. we all spoke about Regulation 638. So for everybody that's listening, that is your homework. That is your document, or that's the hymn book that we are all singing from. So you have to read 638. But now we always get questions where people say, but I've got a certificate under Regulation 962. Does that now mean I need to reapply for my certificate of acceptability? Can you please give us some light on that point in terms of, do people need to reapply?
Moketi, help us with this.
Okay, on that one, remember now what the regulation 638 was implemented on the 22 of June 2018. So all the certificates that were issued before that time, it means now you have to reapply. But now, actually, people were supposed to reapply within a period of 1 year. But now, since when we know we are short-staffed and most of the time you are unable to advise more. But now it seems like our people, they don't have knowledge when they run this business, because once you run a business, obviously you have to be updated with the regulations. So I think people must focus more on the regulations. If there is a new regulation that has been implemented, or they must also most of the time consult with environmental health department so that they keep up to date on onto these things.
I think the point that you're making, sorry Adele, I think the point that you're making here that's very important is that as a business owner, their responsibility to know what the law says is mine.
Yes.
It's not actually your responsibility as the municipality to inform me of a legal requirement. The way South African law is written, it is the onus on the business owner to be legally compliant. Of course, you will advise, but actually I need to know what laws I have to comply with before I start a business. Thanks, Adele.
Okay, and then the next question that I want to ask is that if you guys now come out and the zoning is now done, and now you look at the risk of my product, we understand the product, and there are certain issues that you feel I'm not complying with. How do you deal with this? What happens this? Does it mean that I can't operate? Because I don't, have, let's take an example, a hand wash basin. So I now don't have a hand wash basin, you've investigated now, and I now need to implement a hand wash basin. Does that mean I cannot operate? How does that work? How long time do I get? What is the guidelines that you guys use for that?
And Can
I please just let Adele to repeat the question for me? I will try to tell.
So what Adele is saying is that what if there are non-compliances during the inspection?
Okay.
So you come to my premises and you see, for example, I don't have a hand wash basin that's only used for hand washing. What does that mean? What's the next step?
The next step is me advising on you that you need to have that washing basin. And then obviously you will plan to have one, but also when it comes to other requirements, you find that it is part of shop. Such things are not necessary, but if it is needed, I need to advise you to prepare for one, and then I will probably say that I'll come back and do another inspection to see if you have implemented what we had spoken about previously on my inspection based on what was needed to be done. Like for instance, recently I went to a premise that had cracked tiles, and the roof was not according to our regulation. Then I told them that, guys, please make sure that these tiles are in good state. And then when I went back, like I think it was 5 days later, when they actually called me to say that we have fixed what you had told us to fix, then when I went there, it was properly done, and then I could issue them with the certificate.
So you cannot issue the certificate until action has been taken, which means I should not operate, especially if it's a first-time business. I cannot start trading until such time as I've taken the action. What if I have an existing certificate and you're doing your monitoring and surveillance and you identify areas that now need action? What does that mean? Does it mean I have to stop trading until such time as I've corrected it, or how does that work?
I'm going to give another example for what I had been through this past week because I went to this shop that had applied for a new certificate moving from 962 to R638. So when I got there, the basin was there, but the water was not coming out. And then when I asked them to say that, guys, I tried to open the tap, but there was no water coming out, then they said, oh yeah, we had called the plumber guy to come in. He's coming in this afternoon. Perfect. Okay. Then when I went back again, the tap was working.
Okay.
So they did not stop because it was just that day, and then they said that the plumber guy was going to come back in that afternoon to fix the tap. Fortunately for them, it really did happen. The following day when I went there, the tap was working.
But am I correct in saying, and Samantha, you might want to come in here, is that you do have the authority at that point, if there is a condition which poses a significant public health risk, you do have the authority to stop supply at that point and close the doors?
Yes, but you have to be very, very sure of that because obviously the impact is huge. It would really have to be something life-threatening, I would think, or something where there's absolutely no cooperation at all. But again, with all these requirements, you again would identify the level of risk, and quite often it is just as simple as saying, okay, I want to issue this COA, or you have an existing COA, we do a routine inspection. It's as simple as writing a notice and saying, listen, you've got 7 days, do this, this, and this. And sometimes, you know, especially if a person has been in the business a long time, they quite often don't always have their finger on everything. And that's where we also, you can actually see it when you come in. I quite often can say, oh, has there been a change in management? Because I can see it immediately. And then they just need a little bit of sharpening. So then it will just be a notice and say, listen, you've got 7 days, 14 days, do this, do that, clean this, clean that, move this around, and you can go back. If, however, the person really just completely disregards any advice, any help, any assistance, then you really would have to look at going through a legal route and saying, well, now we need to suspend the COA until such time as you comply. And of course, the legislation says you cannot actually operate without a COA. So there is your situation where a person would not then be operating.
Mukitsi, am I right though in saying that it's really not your intention as council or as the municipality to want to stop trade? You want to work together with the owners of food premises rather to improve public health, but to also improve the economy. It doesn't make sense for us to not cooperate. That's my opinion. How do you feel about this?
No, on that one, we are public servants. We want to work with our clients. We want to build that relationship with them. So everything that we do, we help our clients, and then we make sure that whatever that the public consumes is safe for human consumption. So it's not like we're fighting with them. We protected the public.
That's right. And I'm also the public. And you know, at some point, I often say to people, "Do you eat your own food?" You know, because if you eat your own food, then whatever you're doing is actually to protect yourself as well. Danny, a couple more questions from your side.
Yes, yeah, we've got Justice asking a question in terms of do the EHP do random unannounced inspections at food facilities, or is it announced? Do you make the people aware that you are coming to visit them, or is it unannounced that you would come to their premises? And I assume this is now a food premises that's already got a certificate of acceptability, so it's a normal guy on the corner. Do you let him know when you're going to come and inspect or evaluate his premises, or is it unannounced?
It is unannounced sometimes, definitely, where you just pop in a shop just to do your random inspection, which is when, like Samantha mentioned earlier, to see if, oh, okay, this needs a bit of fixing, this needs a bit of fixing, where we do advise the business owners to say that, oh, okay, I think your washing basin there does not have running water anymore, or your soaps there are not provided anymore. Can you please fix that? We do the random inspections most of the time to make sure that everyone is still on top of things.
Absolutely. And the law gives you that authority.
Yes, it gives us that authority.
And it is illegal for me to to not allow you access to my facility.
Yes, we do have. I just want to point out though that each EHP does have an identification card.
Yes.
And you can, as a member of the public, of course, if you don't know, if you are concerned about this person, you are welcome to ask for their identification card. But we do have, the law does allow us that access to your premises. We're allowed to access your premises, and we're allowed to ask for any documentation. And we're also allowed to take samples of the products. We're allowed to detain the product if we think that it is a problem, but there are processes. We can't just load everything into the boot of our car and, oh my goodness, I've just done a monthly shop. You know, there's actual legal processes. So if anybody removes anything from your premises, they must have followed a legal process. There's documentation involved. If anybody comes to inspect your premises, they must be able to show you an identification card. But at the end of the day, all that, what we are here to do is to actually use our knowledge and our information to improve your premises, your business, and as the most important thing, protect the health of the public and protect what the public is consuming.
Absolutely, absolutely. Linking to that question, so Moketi, you must have some good stories about what kind of visits you have had and the response from some business owners. So tell me, do you mainly get hugs or do you get hidings? What is the response from your clients? What's your experience?
No, most of the time, remember now my premises are based in the suburbs, so most of the time I have a good relationship with my clients, so they know actually that hard-headed to me, so yeah.
That's good.
No, I'm actually enjoying my area. I don't want to lie.
That's good. And that's exactly what we want. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be, you know, about arguing things. It's about cooperating for in the best interests of public health. And what about on your side, I mean, you started a week. You were in the role 1 week, and we had lockdown. So it must have been quite an interesting learning curve for you. What's your experience been?
I must say it is a very good experience though. Like Moketi had said earlier on, that our main role is to actually have a very good relationship with our people that we work with. It does happen every now and then, like sometimes they don't understand why they should do certain things.
Sure.
Like for instance, I went to the store, then I told them about painting because their paint was peeling off. Now the guy asked me, what does it have to do with any of the food? I'm like, your kitchen must look good because you are preparing things that are going to be eaten by the public. So if there's a paint peeling off, it may happen, I know not often as possible, but it may happen that the paint can fall onto the food. So you must always make sure that the walls are nicely painted and everything is up to date. So you need to make them understand that whatever that you are saying is trying to protect the public, like Moketi had said earlier on. So you try to work around with them. But I must say as well, I have never had such a terrifying story where I had to call the police or my manager. It's always been a good one where you sit them down and make them understand more than anything, because even our clients, they want to learn. They want to know more about why do they have to do these things. So you explain it to them nicely, but this is the reason why I want you to have the writing basin close to the people so that they can be able to wash their hands as possible as they can. So it has always been good.
Samantha, I'm sure you've got a few interesting ones in the 30 years that you've worked for the municipality. Do tell.
Well, there are some restaurants. My children think they're disadvantaged because they're not allowed to eat in them. But,
oh yeah.
No, but I must be honest. I actually have only ever had a good relationship with any of my food premises. In recent years, we've had there's more communication problems because we have a lot more foreign people in businesses and so on. So that does make it a little bit more challenging. But to be honest, again, people just want to learn. They are just happy to learn. They do have, you know, when we had the occasionally there's these crackdowns with spas with we won't even go there with the post-dated stock and things like that. But I think from our side, we've always only ever tried to give education and to explain why we are doing it. I can't think that I've ever, well, in 30 years, I think I've only ever had to write 2 fines in my life, because I just really just find I can't. I need to have the cooperation rather. So I think it's all to do with your attitude. Possibly not everybody's the same, but I think in the culture of our municipality is such that we are there to advise and to help and to assist as much as possible. We really just we don't have we don't
use the
string the stick around. Yeah.
And in fact, I think that could be a very key angle, that if we could work on the basis of rewarding, premises as opposed to just, punishing them.
Yes.
I think that would create a lot more emphasis on this even within the city, because you would have people wanting to showcase the fact that they are doing well when it comes to food safety.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I'm always interested to see schemes around the world, how they do it in other parts of the world, where they definitely use the opportunity to reward restaurants and premises as opposed to. So hopefully we'll see some of those. Dali, some other questions coming from the audience?
Yes, definitely. I can see that there's most probably some of the delegates that came in a bit later because they've been asking questions that we've already dealt with. But I think what I'll do, just to summarize, to make sure that we answer all the questions that has come through to date, is that people are asking, how do they get the environmental health practitioner to come to their premises to advise them of how they should go about, starting their business. So I think, just in summary to everybody, because most of the questions is around where do you apply for the COA, how do you apply for the COA, how do you get hold of the environmental health practitioner, and I've got also someone saying here, can you use your COA as a marketing tool? So in that, I want to summarize to say, people, point number 1, town planning. Make sure that wherever you want to run your business from, that area is zoned and that you can do it. Then you apply to the environmental health practitioner. In other words, the place who you pay your rates and taxes to, whichever municipal area that is, you determine who the environmental health practitioner is, where you are specifically wanting to run the business from. Then you fill in an application form. This application form will land on the table of the responsible environmental health practitioner. And now just a question to confirm, you guys, you then at that point go out to the premises to go and evaluate, to see to it if that premises complies with the minimum requirements set out in Regulation 638. Am I right if I say that? Yes. Yeah. Then the EHP goes out, they look at your premises, they will then at that point advise you what you need, and like Mokete and Desiwe said, they will then give you a certain time period to then comply. In other words, if it means to repaint a wall because the wall is not smooth, or to put in a hand wash basin because you don't have one, they will give you the time period to do that, and then they will submit you with your certificate of acceptability. And am I right if I say, in any event, all food premises are supposed to display their certificate to the public so that the public can see it? Yes. Is that right? Yes, we're seeing that. Okay, and that is that. Now I've got someone asking, does a third-party distributor require COA for their delivery vehicle?
Yes.
Good question.
Thanks. I'll answer that. The 638 is legislation that is there for the production of food, the selling of food, the manufacturing of food, the transporting of food, the storing of food, the warehousing of food, anything to do with food. So there's also provision made for specifically for the transporting. So what we find is we will have a warehouse, they will have a certificate of acceptability. Then you will have a transporter. that will, where the warehouse will put, it doesn't belong to the warehouse, it's an independent transporter. The warehouse will put the product into the transporter's vehicle. The transporter will then transport that vehicle, maybe to Pick and Pay DC or something, and offload there. So this warehouse has a COA. The transporter needs a COA because when Pick and Pay accepts that product, they have to know that the transporter has also understood the importance of the transporting of food. Now, when we get an application for a transport of food, we will do an inspection of the truck. We will check that the trucks are in a good state of repair, that they are dust-free, that they are rust-free, that they are cleaned with a food-grade product, that the people that are transporting the food understand things like the transporting of allergens together, and also what they would do in the case of a spillage, what happens to the rest of the products, and those sort of things. So that is why, as much as you are maybe thinking, oh, I'm just driving this food, no, you've got a huge responsibility because this warehouse has entrusted that food to you to go to the next point in a good state. So that's why we issue those COAs.
So there's an
Thank you very.
Sorry, Dale. Yes,
Okay,
thank
sorry,
you.
let you go.
No problem. I think there's an interesting discussion at the moment because we've seen an increase in the number of food deliveries again as a result of COVID. So everyone is now selling food online, and we have a whole economy that has come about with regards to food delivery agents on the back of a motorbike. How are we dealing with this where you have an individual employee? I mean, they're not even employed, they're contracted to perform this function. I can imagine that one's giving you a bit of a headache at the moment. And
yes, not necessarily, because it's very hard to actually get hold of them.
Yeah.
When you get to the shop, they already left. But every now and again, you'll get the driver to be at the food premises that will be inspecting maybe at that time. Then you will. What we normally do, we inspect the place where they actually keep the food for deliveries. But I think I want to say that fortunately during this time of COVID, the contact between the food and the driver has been limited so much. It has been said that the food must just be placed in the rightfully cleaned with the hand sanitizer, sanitize the place for keeping the food, and when you get to deliver, only the customer can get to take the food out of the box. But obviously we had never had like a proper schedule on how to actually manage or maybe inspect the vehicle that deliver the food, especially the franchises like KFC, like the case
Mr. Delivery, Uber Eats, all of those are new things for us.
It's just a matter of you bumping into them when they're at the shops. Then you get to actually have a conversation with them and maybe do a quick inspection based on what you see at that time. I think Samantha wants to add something.
Yes, thanks. I just wanted to add in that there's a second aspect to that, which is also something for the food premises to keep in mind themselves. You are preparing the food and you are maybe you're either using your own delivery guy, in which case he will fall under your COA, or you're using an external person like Uber Eats. But what we are also finding, and we're getting a few, it's coming in just a little bit here and there, where a person, the food will leave your premises, it will go into Uber Eats, it will go to the person's house. That person takes it, puts it on the counter, he's only going to eat it tonight. And then is amazed when the next morning he has food poisoning or something, because that food has been sitting for 6, 8, 10 hours before he eats it. So just for something that food, we obviously you have a very little control, we have very little control. But I am advising my food premises, especially those that are making like home cooked meals for people and so on, to actually educate their client as well, to say consume within 2 hours or refrigerate, because really we are finding it's amazing that in South Africa, that is such a hot country, people will readily leave that food sitting out for hours on end. And then, of course, it's not your fault. I mean, anything can happen with that. So it's also something to keep in mind when you're doing those food deliveries, to just go that extra step. I actually see there's a retail company that has a huge board outside. They've started their delivery service, and they've actually said these foods, with pictures of these foods, these foods need to be refrigerated within 10 minutes of receiving. And that's unfortunately what you would need to do, is to educate the public on that side as well.
Yes, I definitely think it's not only educating the food premises, but it's educating the public, because I don't know how many conversations I've had, you know, with people, and they'll taste raw burbles, they'll wash their chickens, they'll do all the things they're not supposed to when it comes to food safety, and then, like you said, they're shocked when you tell them that what they're doing is actually making them sick. Del, one more question before we wrap it up.
Okay, sorry. Unfortunately, it's going to be two more, but it's quick. Okay, so I've got two. I've got Rodney van Roos and Shamima Khan asking specifically, if you are making packaging material, food contact packaging material, do you need a COA? So it's nothing to do with food. It is the packaging material that's being made that's going to be in direct contact with the food. Do they need a COA?
They won't need a COA, but quite often with the ISO programs that companies have, they will bring them in with that. So they would need probably more some sort of a good management, good storage practice type of approval or something, but not a COA, because it's not an actual food product as such.
I don't think the scope of Regulation 638.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't allow for it.
It will simply just say that packaging must be stored properly, but that is for the food preparation or food premises. So those guys, the packaging guys, they will probably. There's probably a possibility that one of the companies that they're supplying to is asking for something. So what they would want is something to say that however that is manufactured and stored and so on until it gets moved to them is compliant with a food grade product.
Yeah, but not currently under your...
Not COA,
yeah,
no.
You guys have got enough work to do with the stuff that goes in the packaging. That's someone else's problem for now. Okay. Adele, last question.
The last question is, people want to know if they want to know what training their food handler must get. Do they get the requirements from you, or is it that what the regulation is stating in terms of it must be done by an accredited person? So the question specifically is, where can I obtain food handler training requirements?
I think Samantha can take it, but before she does that, I think you can always find it on the internet when it comes to the trainings that are related to food handling. Some you go physically, but I think some you can do some more research on the internet. But I do know that some of the requirements for the application normally say that, can you please provide us with the proof that you have been trained somehow. But I think Samantha can take that for us.
Yeah, it's not an actual requirement for the COA, because the COA is issued under Section 5 and 6 of the regulation. But under Section 10, of the duties of the food handler, then they are supposed to, they must be trained, the person in charge must be trained, and they must ensure that their food handlers are trained. Unfortunately, the regulation is a little, well, you can either say it's 100% clear cut, or you can say it's a little bit vague, because it actually says it must be done by an accredited training provider. But nobody has said who it needs to be accredited by. So that's what makes it a little bit difficult. But there's a second section where it says, or it can be done by an EHP. But unfortunately, with the 9 additional municipal health services that we have, we actually don't run trainings for people at the moment. So it's really, it is a little bit of an open one. I would say there's a leaning towards it being a SAQA accredited training provider. And I think so that you don't get ripped off, that's probably your best bet at this stage.
Am I correct? Sorry, Del, go for it.
Yeah, and what I also want to say to Justin is that we've got a website called Foodemy, and we will make sure to put that detail in when we place the recording on our Food Focus website, that there's companies listed that does provide training for food handlers. And in terms of the requirements and the guidelines that Samantha now have mentioned, that they will be able to provide that information to you as well. From my side, I want to say thank you and for your time and your effort, and I'm sure of it, we're most probably going to invite you back at a later stage for even more topics and more questions from, you know, from our users on our website. But it was very informative, and I really do appreciate the time and all your valuable answers. So from my side, thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Adele. Yes, I have to echo that. A couple of interesting points that I think, just to clarify, that came out of that last training discussion. Samantha said that your certificate of acceptability is issued against Regulation 5 and Regulation 6. Now, this is very important to note. So there are a number of sections within Regulation 638. Each subsection is also referred to as a regulation. So she's talking about subsection 5 and 6 is what is necessary. Compliance is necessary against those two sections in order to obtain your certificate of acceptability. Please also bear in mind there are two kinds of training. There's the person in charge of the premises, because the blind can't lead the blind.
Yeah.
We must know the person in charge knows something about food safety. But then there's also the food handler training.
Yeah.
So the people that are in direct contact. And I'm sure that opportunity is given, you know, during even your visits. That is actually part of an opportunity for you to train, even though there may not be an exam. But that people should make the most of those visits, because it gives you a direct opportunity to pass on information to food handlers. I have to say, it's been an absolute privilege. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to be with us and to share your knowledge. This will definitely be the first of many. We sincerely hope that we'll be able to continue to work with Ekurhuleni, Council, Metro Council, to be able to, further educate not just Ekurhuleni. I'm very passionate about Ekurhuleni because I stay here, but around the country, to be able to share the knowledge that you have. So thank you so much. Is there any last words that you would like to say to people out there about doing the right thing as far as food safety is concerned?
Definitely, but like I said before, like the certificate of acceptability is one of the easiest processes to participate in. And also, like we had mentioned before, we are trying by all means to work with the public, to work with the people that would love to open their business, especially with COVID-19 that has affected us mostly financially. People want to start off their businesses because they want to have something coming in. We are more than you guys are more than welcome to come and ask for help from the EHPs of that particular area. I'm sure they are more than willing to assist you and advise you on what you need to do. But then again, it's free, it's easy. Once your kitchen complies, we provide the necessary documents, you get the certificate, as easy as that. But obviously we come in every now and then to just make sure that you comply with all the things that we have mentioned and you are still in the right direction. But also thank you very much, guys, for the opportunity. I really had much fun.
That's good. Indeed, Friday fundamentals.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Okay, I appreciate everyone and this session. All I can say is that, sometimes people, I think they must do business that they have a passion in.
Yeah.
So that is the most important one, because once you have a business that you love, you'll be able to make sure that you comply with their requirements all the time. So that's all I can say.
That's great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Maketi. Samantha, let's finish with you.
Thanks. And for me, I just love to be able to talk about environmental health. And don't be scared. Go find your EHP. You have no idea the breadth of our knowledge and how we can help you. So please just find them, get them, use them. Thanks.
Great, thanks. Everyone, please enjoy the rest of your fun Friday. Travel safely if you're on the roads this weekend. Make sure you wear your masks. Make sure you wash your hands. Any last words from France, Adele?
Just want to say, guys, thank you once again. Have a blessed long weekend. Be safe. And like Linda said, look after yourselves and your families by protecting them during this time period of COVID. Unfortunately, it's going to be with us for long still. And yeah, we're the only people that can try to make the time period that it's going to exist a little bit shorter by focusing on protecting ourselves and the people that we interact with. And yes, I want to do a last shout out We will make sure that this recording is available on our website. It will be available next week for those people that unfortunately didn't manage to be with us today. And then also, please have a look out for our summit, our Food Safety Summit that we are hosting on the 8th and the 9th of June. Our early bird registration is coming to an end, and we would really love to have you all part of this very eventful day. You can go to the website as well. We'll put the website as part of the article on our platform as well, but to make sure that you can see the program and the very amazing topics that we're going to go and talk about the basics of food safety, and we would love to have you all part of that. So from my side, have a blessed long weekend and thank you for your time.
Thanks, bye.